Hi, I'm Brendan, and I will be demoing the pin transfer robot for chemical screening for Group H. So this is our robot. As you can see right now, we are demonstrating the initial step, which is to take plates off of the input stack. On the left, you see the chemical plate input stack. This is where the chemicals will be placed in the plates. So at the moment, the parallel gripper is going to drop down to a height based off of the height of the stack. Once it reaches that height, it will start to close, as you can see there. It will pick it up and then drop it down over to the chemical pin transfer area. So as you can see, we have complete control over all our axes. And there we go. It's a perfect placement on the chemical pin transfer location. So now this is going to repeat this, but for the cell stack. The same series of steps. Just it's going to take a plate from the other stack. As you can see, the same situation as before. It will drop down to the specific height of the stack, grab at the top plate, and then bring it over to the pin transfer location. For the purposes of this video, we slowed down the speed a little bit so you can clearly see the actions of the linear actuators. In this next clip, we are now showing a pin transfer. So now we moved the x-axis forward, which now allows the pin tool to hover over the well plates. At this moment, you can now see that the pin tool has engaged the well plate, meaning that the chemicals within the well plate will be absorbed, per se, by surface tension into the pins. And now the pin tool is moving over towards the cell plate, which the purpose of this is to transfer the chemicals in the pins from the chemical plate into this cell plate. And now, as you can see, the pin tool has successfully dipped its pins into the cell plate, which means that a chemical transfer has occurred between those two plates. In this next clip, we are showing the step which happens after a pin transfer, and that is to take the plates that you just did the pin transfer with and move it to the output stack, because we don't want to have these plates in our workspace anymore. So as you can see, the gripper goes to the height of the plate, moves it to the predetermined location, and drops it nicely down into the seat. So again, the purpose of this is to move the used plates out of the workspace to make room for future plates. It first moved the cell plate into its output stack, and now it's doing the same thing for the chemical plate. As you will now see, the parallel gripper will be lowered into the appropriate position, and then the gripper arms will open, which will then set the plate down. We will now show the user interface that the user will see. When you first turn on the LCD, you will see a little greeting screen as shown like that. Next, you will be able to enter number of plates for that step, So here we're entering 3 plates. This next step is entering the pin depth. So our user puts in a depth of 10. And then in this step, you can select which wash steps to use. So in this case, we're just choosing the first wash step. And at the end, there's a little confirmation screen, just so a little overview of what the user chose. Now that we've seen all the steps individually, we will now show the entire pin transfer process again from the beginning. This cycle began from the user input from the previous step. As you can see, again, we are taking the top plate of the chemical stack and picking it up, and then we will move it to the pin transfer location. Here you can see the Z-axis with the parallel gripper has set the plate into its pin transfer seating area such that it doesn't move, and it has a predetermined spot to remain. And as we saw before, we will now grab the top plate from the cell stack, which is the other part of the pin transfer process. So as we can see, the y-axis has positioned itself to be over the cell stack plate. The parallel gripper is now moving down towards the top plate on the cell stack. Once it reached its height right there, it grabbed the top plate and slowly moves up to not upset the cells inside or to disrupt the cells inside. Now that all the axes have positioned themselves over the cell transfer area, it is now lowering it into its seat, which will then allow it to be ready for a pin transfer. As you can see, the Z-axis with the parallel gripper is getting out of the way to make room for the pin tool. Now the pin tool is positioned in the right X coordinate and is now moving towards the chemical plate, which is the plate you transfer chemicals from. Pin tool is slowly lowering into the well plate, capturing all the chemicals inside the well plate for the pin transfer. At this point, the pins of the pin tool are full of the desired chemical, and now will be slowly transferred over to the cell plate. Here's a better angle from the other side. The pin tool has lined up properly above the cell plate and is now transferring the chemicals into the cell plate. The pins have now entered the cell well plate, meaning that the chemicals have transferred into the cell plate.